up, everybody? It's PrimeTime Sports Podcast, brought to you by Digging the Creation, the Hook and Mac Show. It's your boy, Filthy Franco.
And President Elon.
Today, we got a special guest. We got a prolific A&T figure, Coach Roy Thompson. How you doing today, man?
I'm fine. How you doing? How y'all doing?
Thanks for asking.
Good.
Great.
Good.
So, man, first questions. You want to give us your background, you know, how many teams you coach, when you coached them, anything like that?
Well, I'm originally from Burlington, North Carolina. Went to Jordan Sellers High School. Came to North Carolina A&T, North Carolina A&T College in 1964. Participated and was all CIAA, was NCAA regional champion in track and field at North Carolina A&T from 1965 to 68. Then I left in 1969, got drafted, went in the Army, spent 11 months in Vietnam, came back, started working at Dudley High School, assisted to the legendary Coach Bill Boyers, who was also an A&T graduate. Worked with him for a year and then talked to a guy by the name of Melvin Pinckney, and he encouraged me to come over to A&T and get involved with assist him with the track program. That was in 1980, and from 1980 to 2010, I was involved with track and field at North Carolina A&T State University. I was the head men's and women's track coach from 1983 to 2010. I also was strength and conditioning coach for football from 1984 to 1987.
Wow, man. The resume is impeccable.
Crazy.
Thank you, man. Thank
That's
you.
insane.
Thank you.
Track legend as a runner and as a coach.
Yeah, I was inducted into the North Carolina A&T Hall of Fame in 2010.
Ooh, Hall of Famer. We got a Hall of Famer in our presence,
I'm
man.
honored.
It's an honor, man. So, you know, we are in the middle of a pandemic.
Mm-hmm.
Sports, school, just basically every part of life was canceled, you know, due to the pandemic, social distancing, being safe, trying to avoid the spread of this. So a lot of athletes might have fallen off, lost their work ethic. Do you have any advice to those who are trying to get back to the shape they were in or mental state they were in before this pandemic hit and made us go home and stop going out?
Well, one of the things that I always talked about to student athletes is that one of the things, and I don't like to use the word can't, that I can't coach, is desire. And the athlete has to have desire in order to be successful. So if they lose their desire, then they're going to have a difficult time getting back. But those who have desire and want to succeed are going to look at this as a bump in the road and something that they can overcome. I can tell people that one of the things that, you know, in my experience as an athlete is that the mark of a champion is the person who can overcome adversity.
Amen.
Yes, sir.
That's tough.
Wonderful words. Man, you've been coaching for 30 plus years. What was your proudest moment coaching? Do you have one moment you can think of above all else, or is there?
It's so many. You know, also, I didn't mention in 1979 when I came back from the service. 1975, I'm sorry, when I came back from the service, I started the Greensboro Champions Youth Track and Field Club for kids in the community, and that club is still going on today. I'm not involved with it. I've since retired from it, but it's still going on, and we coached kids from all over the city and took them all over the country competing in the Junior Olympics. So I was very proud of that. But I can say that some of my proudest moments was I was able to win 3 MEAC championships back-to-back, 94, 95, 96. We didn't have the facilities, we didn't have a track, but the athletes were so dedicated and so focused. We were able to win 3 of the championships back to back. And the other ones is the fact that I've had guys and girls who have become All-American and competed in the NCAA Division I track championships. Some of those guys competed in the long jump and triple jump, and we did not have a pit. So we were able to develop our skills using techniques and other things that we were able to do in terms of conditioning. And I think also one of my proudest moments is being able to work with the 1986 football team that won the MEAC championships outright for North Carolina A&T. Yeah.
As a coach, what were your favorite events to coach or to watch?
The sprints and jumps. I was a jumper when I attended A&T, and my specialty was the jumps and the sprints. More or less, the jumps was my the long jump, triple jump probably is my better coaching events. But I really later on developed a lot of interest in speed development and sprints, and so I was very involved in that also.
That's nice. My little brother's actually a long jumper right now.
Oh, okay.
So, yeah, he goes to Mallard Creek High School. It's in Charlotte. He's on the track team.
Okay, good.
He got up.
Good.
He's a sophomore now. He got up to, my mom said, actually earlier today when I saw her, about 19 feet.
Okay.
Right now.
That's what's up.
Okay.
So,
Yeah, the one thing about the long jump is the speed down the runway dictates how far you go in the pit. And so if you can develop your sprint mechanics and develop your speed, then you can do very well in the long jump. But, that is a key. Once you leave the board, there's nothing you can do in the air to dictate how far you're going to go in the pit. It's all based on your acceleration down the runway.
yeah. So, earlier this year, it was confirmed that A&T will be leaving the MEAC, the historic division, and leaving the Big South. How did you feel when you first found that out?
I have mixed emotion. I'm disappointed, and not so much with A&T, but with black athletics in general, because a lot of coaches and a lot of administrators and a lot of people made a lot of sacrifices to make the MEAC what it was. Dr. Leroy Walker, who probably is one of the greatest coaches that ever lived in track and field, be the chancellor of Central, helped start the MEAC along with Cal Irvin, legendary basketball coach from North Carolina A&T. So I was disappointed that I felt that the black schools needed to work together and strengthen the conference. I was disappointed that we as a people can't work together and make what we have and what we develop stronger and more meaningful to us as a people.
Yeah, I was that really was heartbreaking earlier this year. Realizing that a lot of those rivalries we had, and if I knew that what was coming to us now back then, with this COVID happening, canceling our last season here, I don't know how I would have been able to wake up in the morning. I mean, it's heartbreaking, especially since after A&T left, FAMU and Bethune-Cookman went to the SWAC. But I can accept that. I can look at that and be like, well, you can't be too mad because they're all the way down in Florida.
Right.
True. So and they had to drive a bus everywhere. They didn't fly. Driving a bus from Florida to Delaware State. That's so if
I mean, I'm kind of old school. I've done it a lot. I've had many bus trips from A&T to Florida and from A&T to Delaware, A&T to Philadelphia, A&T to New York, and the athletes still did great. Now, that's not to say that flying is not better and you won't be better prepared, but, I know we talk about money, but it was the exposure and the experience that was just as important as the competition. And I think that the thing that bothers me is that I don't think we understand A&T's position in the country, and it is a a black institution, and people look at us as a I kind of like a starship, you know, something that has led the way, particularly since we were the leaders of the civil rights movement in terms of the sit-in. So A&T has always been in that position where it's a type of school that people have looked to for, you know, pride in terms of black schools. You know what I mean? And A&T has been known, you know, throughout the country. And I don't think A&T, a lot of people realize A&T is important to the black community. You know, not people who went to A&T, but just people in general who are black. And, you know, that's our institution, you know.
Yeah.
And a lot of black people, you know, when I went to A&T, the whole black community in Greensboro was shut down during homecoming because they embraced A&T as theirs. It wasn't that they went to A&T, but, you know, A&T was an institution within the black community. So the thing that bothers me is that, you know, I think going forward that, you know, black institutions, and MEAC was a black institution, need to have the support of black people and need to unify to the point where we can make money for ourselves.
You see, I agree with that completely. And another thing is how fast the school has come, like how fast the come up has been for A&T, especially in the 21st century. You know, we keep climbing higher and higher. Sometimes I feel like we also lose sight of our past and what got us to the place we are, in a way.
I agree with that. I agree with that. I'm very pleased with the movement that I see at A&T and the things that have been accomplished. But I also, I'm like you guys, I caution A&T people not to lose sight of what got us to where we are.
Yeah.
You know, and the thing that in this time with black people, given the nature of the situation with us in this country, you know, we have to realize that those things that made us great, we need to hold on to them and embrace them. And understand that, you know, you don't throw away those things that made you who you are.
Yeah, it's a lot of progress, but not much preservation.
Right, and I you know, when I was at North Carolina A&T, I was in that, my senior class was 1968, so you can understand the turbulent times at A&T during that particular times in terms of the riots, the protests, the sit-in. In 1969, right before I went into the service, we had one of a major riot at North Carolina A&T. The National Guard had Army personnel carriers that blocked off A&T. There were M151 tanks patrolling the area. You know, Scott Hall was shot up. They had a M60 machine gun loaded on a prop machine that shot Scott Hall up. And when I went in Vietnam, I jokingly told the guys, I said, man, we got shot at A&T more than we get to shoot at in Nam. So you know, we need to, sometimes as black people, we don't want to talk about the legacy and the things that have happened to us. And I think that one of the things that I'm proud of as a coach is that, you know, I believe in being honest and telling the students the truth and arming them with, you know, what happened with us so they can go forward and see, you know, what was accomplished and how much further we need to go. So
powerful, very powerful. You know, like you just said, you know, knowing who we are today and knowing what the world's like today, you know, it's coming closer and closer. The election's coming up, and I feel like a lot of my peers, whether the person maybe they like Bernie more than Joe, or just feel that even though Joe is better than Donald, you know, the step you're making isn't a huge step. You know, you're not making much progress. Well, even though he's not, you know, Donald Trump. more of an inch in progress, which in my opinion I'd rather take an inch forward than 2 steps backwards.
I understand.
So you know, how do you feel about you know, the black vote, you know, possibly diminishing, or, you know, people not caring like they should?
I think that the most important thing you can do as a black voter is educate yourself and be more involved in the local politics where you live. That controls you more than the national politics. So I think that, you know, understanding what the bond referendum is for the schools in the Guilford County area, how that's going to affect your child or future children in this community, understanding what policies are going to change. You know, you can do that locally. Nationally, the Electoral College determines who the president is going to be. You know, I was very fortunate. My major at A&T was history and political science. And I had an excellent professor by the name of Gordon T. Sadler. And he was very hard on me, and he was a rough instructor, but, you know, I learned that his knowledge was second to none. And he told me, he said, Mr. Thompson, the masses are ignorant to the political process. He said they don't understand how elections are held and how the Electoral College really controls who is going to be the next president. But he said, if you want to do anything, he said, I challenge you to be an instrument of change in your community. Go out, get involved in your community, do things in your community, understand the politics of your community, because that's the area that you can control the most.
What are some good tips or advice that you have to help people of me and Franco's generation get out here and educate ourselves on politics? Because a lot of people just don't care to educate themselves.
I think that one of the things that I would suggest to the youth is that take advantage of all the opportunities that you guys have today, particularly entrepreneurship. You know, you can't do anything in this country without wealth and without having some sort of economic independence. And one of the problems that you have with politics is you always hear that term quid pro quo. And I didn't understand. What does that mean? Well, it's something for something, you know. And what happens is people, you know, I used to wonder how they have these $1,000 plate dinners and all these fundraisers for those candidates. You know, need money in order to run, in order to advertise and talk about what they're going to do. But in the end, they come back and make policies and make things work for those people that donated the money to them. So in order for you to really control the national level of politics, you're going to have some money. And you have to be entrepreneurs in this society. And whether you like it or not, this capitalistic society, it is a group dynamic thing that you have to organize yourself to do. The young people, blacks that's going forward, has to start being more business oriented, more entrepreneurial, skilled, and understanding that you can't do anything unless you raise some type of capital for yourself independently. Because when you don't, whoever pays your way controls you.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so the other thing is, to your point about getting involved in politics, is start at the grassroots. You know, I am so proud of Black Lives Matter. I don't care what nobody says. You know, because they're standing up, they're doing the same thing. It's deja vu all over again. You know what I mean? Because I'm seeing these young people doing the same thing that we were doing in North Carolina A&T. You know, that same type of attitude, that same type of fire. You know, and I like the fact that, you know, people are now beginning to challenge the legal system and find out exactly, you know, how the laws work, because that's how you have to get involved in the system.
Yes, sir.
You know, you can't stand on the outside and expect to make change. You know, and it's just like, you know, I used to tell my athletes, you can't play if you ain't in the game. You can't play if you ain't in the game. You know, you can sit on the sidelines, but you know, I mean, you're not making any, you're not contributing, and you're not making any noise. So, in order for you guys to change the status and the situation with black people, we have to become more economically independent, and we have to, like you said before, we need to embrace our culture and be more respectful of who we are as a people. And we need to respect and love each other more, and get back to, you know, if Black lives matter, it ought to matter to us just as much as anybody else.
Yeah.
Yes,
So
sir.
did it make it easier for you in the 60s, first, before you came back to A&T, did it make it easier for you to connect with your student athletes because of, you know, when, you know, John Carlos and, you know, Muhammad Ali, did it, because you had that knowledge, as going back to what President Eli said, that you were able to connect with them because you had that sort of that ground, you know, on the ground experience. Did you find it easier for you to connect with your athletes?
One of the reasons why I wanted to coach at A&T, I've been offered jobs at a lot of PWIs, you know, but I wanted to coach at A&T because I wanted to teach my people about survival, and about how things work, and who controls what. And when I came back, I wanted to impart that knowledge on the people that I was working with, and the people that I wanted to work with were the students in North Carolina A&T. And I wanted to teach them that you can't do anything without intellectual education. I'm not talking about just regular education, but intellectual education. And that is, you have to be intelligent enough to understand what you have to do in order to survive in this society. And one of the best ways to do it is through A&T. You know, the same instructor, Dr. Sally, used to tell you ought to pick my brains for every bit of knowledge I got. You know, don't just come to class and don't just sit up in here and just try to get the knowledge. And I don't think that a lot of people, this is one of the things I talk to my athletes about, is knowledge. Knowledge is power. Knowledge is key. Anybody can get a degree. I mean, you can just regurgitate back what you get. But knowledge, learning why and how things are done, is more important than anything else. So,
Yes, sir.
that's you know, and I wanted to be a part of that. You know, one of the things that I always loved about North Carolina A&T is we had an undying love for our school. You know, and it was a family atmosphere where people worked together and accomplish a goal, and that goal was survival of black people.
Aggie pride.
Yeah, that's when it started, man. You know, I mean, so I used to be like other kids, you know, in my era. We used to be so pumped up and full of emotion that when they sung the school song during the homecoming football games, it was right after the national anthem. I mean, the emotion, you could feel it in the air because of the love that people had for the school.
It's all right.
So we got one last question for you.
Mm-hmm.
So you held the torch for 30 years for for A&T's track and field team.
Right.
Dominant teams. I mean, a three-peat in the MEAC with no track and no pit.
Right.
Incredible. Simply incredible. How do you think that the school has handled the track and field team since you've left? I mean, we've had world record breakers, champions, pure dominance. Is it like how you left or better?
It's much better. You know,
better.
one of the things that I really admire about what Chancellor Martin has done is he's put an emphasis on supporting the track program, and with that emphasis, you've seen the results. And then, you know, plus Coach Ross is a great coach, man. You know, that brother has got it going on, and he's got a heck of a staff. people that I've competed against. He's got two guys that Ron and Coach Barrett. Ron used to coach at the University of Illinois. Coach Barrett has coached at Maryland Eastern Shores and Coppin State. Very accomplished coaches, been head coaches most of their lives and have done some great things. And now you're beginning to see what's happening at A&T. A&T is a world-class track program.
Yes, sir.
And you've seen Coach Ross take it to another level. My focus was to, once I, right before I left, I was able to talk to Chancellor Rennick, and he bought into the idea of building the track. And so we built the track around 2003, and because of my
2003.
yeah, because of my connections with USA Track and Field, with Junior Olympics, AAU, I was able to convince some of those people to bring some of the national meets and to bring we brought them MEAC, the high school championships.
Oh, so you're the reason we have
the New Balance meet, all those meets. I was able to influence my colleagues and friends to bring those meets to A&T. That was my plan, to do that so that the students, I told Dr. Rennick, I say the students who would come to A&T would never have known about A&T, would now be able to come on our campus, see what we have to offer. This will make it easier for me to recruit. And so I had worked with a number of track officials for years. I've done clinics with track officials. I've done clinics with Junior Olympics. So most of the people who were in the decision-making process for those track meets knew me, and I was able to convince them to come to A&T.
Wow.
And so we did some great things, but I am so happy, with what is happening with track and field, because now I believe, if everything goes right and we get over this epidemic, I believe Coach Ross is going to win an NCAA championship. I really believe that. I think, he's headed in the right direction.
That is not a hot take. That is a very...
and the thing that is coming to true is now that the New Balance meet and the high school track meets at A&T, those quality athletes get a chance to see A&T and feel that vibe of what A&T is about, and now they'll stay at A&T.
Yes, sir.
Wow.
That was
Whenever I
genius
get
right
to watch
there.
my little brother compete in the high school state
Yeah.
champions, it's because of you.
Yeah.
Thanks, Coach.
Thank you, man. Thank you. But it was a blessing that Chancellor Rennick came to A&T, and he was a track guy too. And we used to ride around campus talking about, man, we had a track. This is what we'll do. This and that. And right before I left, we had partnered up with the city of Greensboro with the Convention and Visitors Bureau, and I did a lot of work with them, and we had talked about bringing the World Junior Games to North Carolina A&T, and that was the reason for having, I don't know if you've ever been down to right on the track in the if it would be the northern end towards the scoreboard. To the left side, there's an area where you can put the discus cage inside the stadium.
Yeah.
So the reason for that is because we wanted to try to get international meets, and in order to get international meet, all your throwing has to be inside the stadium.
Wow.
And the markings, we made sure that all the markings on the track were just like the markings on the Olympic track.
Yeah. No,
I get that.
Yeah. So.
Wow, that's wonderful, man. You've done so much
Coach,
for this school, man.
True pioneer.
You're a true A&T legend, man.
Pioneer.
That's insane.
I've been fortunate to accomplish some things. I had some good people around me, and it just was a lot of hard work and dedication. But it was a labor of love, when you're doing something you like to do,
Yeah.
you know, it wasn't that difficult,
Yeah.
you know, until you step outside and look back and say, oh man, I really did that.
Yeah.
But you know, while I was inside, you know, yeah, there was a lot of adversity that I had to deal with, you know, because we were not funded to that level, but I wouldn't use that as an excuse.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
You know, and I used to tell the athletes, you know, in I think it was in 2000, our 4x1 placed 5th in the Nationals. And we ran 39, 33, 38, something like that. And, you know, I would tell the athletes, look, man, these people don't care if you don't have a track. They don't care if you don't have a block. They don't care what you have. All they know is you on that lane, you got a lane on that track, and they're trying to kick your butt. You know, so you can cry about what you don't have, you know, or you can compete. You know, and that's the bottom line. You know, it's the same thing with the '86 football team. We rode on the bus to Mississippi Valley, Florida A&M, you know, just everywhere, Philadelphia, you know, all those places on the bus. And all these guys are, you know, 200, 300 pounds. We packed in on that bus, so we had to eventually get 2 vans,
Yeah.
you know, for the coaches to ride and support staff to ride in. So this is a funny story, man. So one time and you could ask the guys from the '86 team this, the bus broke down on the way to Itabitty, Mississippi.
Oh, Lord.
Right,
Oh, Lord.
and so we're in the middle of nowhere, and so we get it fixed. We win the game. In fact, Jerry Rice and Totten, Willie Totten was
Wow.
playing. Totten was playing in that game. Okay,
Yeah.
and Hooker was lighting it up, man. Alan Hooker was a bad boy, and then we had some excellent athletes. So, but anyway, we get the bus fixed. So we come in, we driving back, right? The lights on the bus go out. So a guy, a DWI guy, comes and smashes into the bus, right?
Man.
And so I'm telling y'all, man, we're in the middle of pitch black dark, and all these people come out the woods and look at it and say, I saw it. And so they gave that guy the ticket. They didn't know we didn't have lights, right, on the bus. So what we did is we put one van in the back and one van in the front, and that's how we made it back home.
Wow. Y'all got off though.
Yeah, we had a,
hit y'all.
Jerry Rice.
But I'm just saying those are the type of things that I've been privileged to, man, and had some great experience. I think one of my greatest experience was when I was an athlete at North Carolina A&T. We had the only bus of the 5 black schools.
Wow.
A&T had the only bus. Everybody else used the station wagon or either old van. So we had this old bus. And the track coaches, to show you how black people worked together back then, the track coaches were so tight until we would get on the bus, we would go to Johnson C. Smith. No, we'd go to Winston-Salem State, pick up their track athletes. Johnson C. Smith, pick up their track athletes,
Wow.
come back and pick up North Carolina Central and go to the Penn Relays.
Wow.
And we all rode on the same bus together.
Wow, that's insane.
That's crazy.
But this is the part that is so great, and that people don't believe me, but this is documented proof. On the bus in 1968, we had 5 Olympians.
Wow.
You had Edwin Roberts and Norman Tate from North Carolina Central. You had Leon Coleman who placed 4th in the hurdles in the 6'8" Olympics in Mexico. You had Vince Matthews from Johnson C. Smith, who ran on the world record 4x4 relay in Mexico. And you had Bob Beeman, who was a freshman at A&T, my roommate, a freshman at A&T, on that bus. So you had 5 Olympians that participated in the 1968 Olympics on one bus.
That's perfect.
All these schools working together, you know, to travel to the meet. So
And that's just beautiful.
so that was during the era of Jim Crow.
Yeah.
So we didn't stay in any hotels, couldn't eat anywhere. So what we did is when we went to Florida A&M, we stayed in Jake Gaither Gym, and they had Army carts hooked in the gym, and the coaches would pay $5 for a cot. And so you had, in that gym, you had all these black teams in there at nighttime talking smack to each other. I don't know why y'all coach brought y'all here. Y'all ain't gonna do nothing tomorrow. You know, that type of stuff, you know, back and forth. You know.
I can only imagine the bus ride.
Oh, man. The bus ride, the thing about the bus ride, if you didn't come in first, second, or third, they rode your butt all the way back home. Where your medal at? Where your such and such?
Man, I wish we could have gotten
and then the other way, we would go, we'd pick up Johnson C. Smith, Winston State, turn back around, get Central, and go to Penn Relays. And that was the only time first time in my life I ever stayed in a hotel was in the Ben Franklin Hotel in Philadelphia, because they allowed blacks to stay.
What year was this?
This was like 1966, 67, 68.
Wow.
Right. So, couldn't stop and use the bathroom, pull over and use the woods. Box lunches, you know, 2 pieces of fried chicken, some white bread, honey bun, and what we call 2 little cases of jungle juice, you know, that we had. So, I mean, that was the type of things that we had, the adversity. But we didn't think about it.
Diamonds.
Yeah, but we didn't think about it because, man, we were so talented. And the people on the bus were so talented and competitive, so the only thing we was worried about is not coming back with any hardware. Because, okay, when we went to Duke, you know, the only time a black person could go to Duke or either Carolina was at an athletic event like that. We were over there. In fact, I think me and some of those athletes back in the early 60s were one of the first blacks they ever was on their campus, you know, to compete. Okay, so they had the Duke relays where you got watches. First place was a watch, a gold watch, right? And so everybody was going to bus. What time is it? What time is it? You know, and if you didn't have on no watch, man, they boy, you will catch it, man. You will catch it. You know. So that's the type of things that I remember. And the type of adversities that we overcame, but still, you know, we had people who did so much. You know, on that team we also had, on my team we had Evan Bethea. Now you know, you talk about a specimen of an athlete. Evan Bethea was about 6'3", 6'4", 255, 260 pounds of pure muscle. And if he hadn't played football, he could have went to the Olympics in the shot and disc. He threw the shot put over 60 feet, and I sit there and watch him throw the discus 190, 180 feet, and that's on a half a year practice.
Wow.
I think you're talking about my proudest moment is that in 1968, 67, 68, Coach Murray Neely, my track coach, took us up to the college division of the NCAA Eastern Regionals. And he won the shot and the disc, and I won the long jump and triple jump. And we had enough points to place in the top 5.
It's all right.
Out of about 30-some schools. So that was a great moment, you know, for me. And
as you being an athlete.
As me being an athlete, you know. But Evan Bethea was a heck of an athlete. He was All-American, All-CIAA. you know, and of course he's a Hall of Famer now for the Houston Oilers. So, I mean, you know, just in those days, football players played both ways, y'all. Okay, so he played both ways sometimes.
Dang.
Yeah, yeah. He played defensive tackle and like offensive tackle sometimes.
Yeah, nice.
Yeah.
That was the first thing I saw when I came to A&T and started going to school, and people were like, "We got a Hall of Famer," and I was like, "What?" And then I went and saw the thing every bit there, and I was trying to find out who he was.
He was from 0 to 25 yards. He could hang with any sprinter we had. Cause we used to race every day. He wanted to race. He was just that fast, man. This big dude, just that fast. So you could imagine when he hit somebody, you know. But shoot, I seen him. But he had some classic battles because we used to play Tennessee State, and they had Claude Humphreys. You know, we played Maryland. Back then, Maryland, it was Maryland State then. Wasn't Maryland Eastern Shore. They had Johnny Sample and Big Kirksey, fullback. Man, 6'2", 250. You know, that's why that's why the kid that plays for the Titans don't excite me. I seen that a lot. I'm serious, man. I'm serious, y'all. I know y'all. I mean, you know,
Harry was just a normal.
He to me, he would have been right back there in the 60s, because what you got to understand is everybody that was an athlete went to the black schools.
True.
Okay, so very few. I mean, you could almost count them on your hand in the early 60s that went to a predominant white school. You know, and none to you talking about Alabama. You know, those schools, no. You know, so I've had an opportunity to grow up in an era and see a lot of sure enough superior athletes in my day, and been around a lot of superior athletes. Yeah, I mean, I want people to, you know, this is a history that's not often told.
Yes, sir.
And a lot of people don't know the history. You know, man, you talk about basketball. Oh my God.
Like that.
Oh man. You talking about basketball, brothers. You talking about if you didn't, Moore Gym was the gym where we played our games.
Nice.
If you didn't leave the cafeteria and come straight to Moore Gym, you couldn't get in.
Dang.
Cause, you know, Winston-Salem had Earl Monroe, you know, and you have guys ever heard of the Ruckus Tournament up in New York?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so we had some of the top athletes from Philadelphia on our basketball team. Winston-Salem had some of the top athletes from New York and Philadelphia on their basketball team. So the guys knew each other, and they shoot. You know, I know people don't think I'm exaggerating, but they shoot at the half-court line. You know, wasn't no 3 points then. Earl would shoot 60 points in a game. There wasn't no 3-point line.
60 in a game.
In a game. You know,
Man,
I mean, they didn't have the 3-point line. You know, all this was 2 points. And a lot of those guys, you know, they came down, and because some of them, everybody wanted to have them globetrotter moves, you know. So they would come out, you know, like throw the ball out and put a backspin on it. The ball come and they'd grab it and shake and bake and shoot it. And I mean the type of stuff that you see now on TV, we used to see it right there in Moore's Gym.
Nice.
You know, so you know that's the history that I think needs to be told. And I don't know if you guys know it or not, but Winston-Salem State won a national championship in basketball in the 60s.
Really?
Yes.
Wow.
Yes.
Shout out to the Rams.
Yeah, they won the national. They beat everybody. National. They went to the tournament and dogged people.
Dang.
Hey.
Yeah.
Hey,
Look it up. Look it up. Winston-Salem State.
Wow. That's a filthy Franco flashback
That's
right
a-
there.
Yeah, that is.
Definitely a flashback.
Wow.
Yeah.
And here's the other thing, Hooker, they were grooves.
Oh, see, that's you.
I'm just telling you, man, they're all the brothers,
Because people.
but they had, Winston-Salem had some serious basketball players back during the day. You know, I mean, real, you know, I mean, guys that could go anywhere.
It's crazy, especially since, you know, you think about the talent today where, you know, most of them will go to the PWI.
Right.
Yeah.
They had to go to HBCUs back then. So
Right,
you had, you know, #1 in the country level talent going to HBCU, which, you know, we're hopefully seeing the trend kind of come back today.
That's
We
why
got a few.
you know, the thing that's so ironic about what's happening today, you know, the ACC and all those schools didn't have a year-ending tournament. They would have just a regular season champion. The only tournament was the CIAA. And so, you know, the CIAA would have a tournament and it would last 4 and 5 days. I'm talking about a festival. And,
I'm from Charlotte, man. So
we was right there. I've been watching this.
Both from Charlotte.
But, you know, the game that we had with them was with Bobby Dandridge was playing for Norfolk State. And Norfolk State had a guy, I've never seen anything like this in my life, called Hookshot Grant. And the reason why he called him Hookshot, he didn't shoot a jumper. He started at the top at the top of the key at the free throw line. He started dribbling the ball to his right and throw up a hook shot. Nothing but bottom. Nothing but bottom. And then they had this guy named Pee Wee Kirkland.
Oh yeah.
And who was got hung up in the drug situation, but one of the greatest basketball players I ever seen in my life. I mean,
it's just insane thinking about all the talent back then that, you know, we never, you know, because of the, you know, we didn't have, you know, those games recorded, but also there was prejudice in the pro leagues where, especially in the NFL. I mean, how many legendary HBCU quarterbacks did we miss out on?
Yeah, I think one of the guys that really had a rough time with that was Herman Gilliam, the guy from Tennessee State that went to the Pittsburgh Steelers.
Yeah.
You know, he was a phenomenal quarterback, but you know, the pressure and the racism was, the prejudice was so rough. You know, it was hard for him to deal with. You know, they didn't believe in black quarterbacks because they didn't want to show that blacks had that type of intelligence to run a team.
Exactly.
And I never forget this guy named Jimmy the Greek used to be a sports commentator, and he made the statement. He said, "Well, if the blacks become a quarterback and become head coaches, what the white people gonna do?"
I remember seeing that. Actually. He said that in '89. He had to step down because he was like the, what was it? I think he was Monday Night Football host.
He was. I forgot what he was, but
it was one of those.
He was the type, you know.
Yeah.
You know, but you talk about those athletes back then.
So much talent. You had to be the best of the best just to get a chance.
Just to get a shot.
And that's such a shame because
so many got you know, fell by the wayside because they weren't given the opportunity.
Exactly.
You know. But
and that probably also has an influence on why now most black athletes choose to go to PWIs to get that exposure and get that favoritism versus going to HBCU.
I never will forget the first time that they really, the world opened up their eyes to black athletes on the PWI scene was when Alabama Bear Bryant played USC. And they had this guy named Sam the Bam Cunningham. And he was from the Alabama area. And he ran all over Alabama. And at the end of the day, the crowd was hollering, "Get us 1-2. Get us one too. Get us one.
Wow.
You know, and they say now, I don't know, but they say that Bear Bryant invited USC to play them so that he would show how the future of black athletes was going to be coming to the PWIs, and he wanted to integrate the football team at Alabama because he knew that with black athletes coming in, that Alabama's dominance in terms of white football players was going to be over with.
Wow.
Yeah.
That
Game was in
that
was in like the 70s. That was like 71.
Early 70s,
Yeah.
right. Yeah, early 70s.
It's just a shame that, you know, when we finally got our chance on the white fields, you know, we also lost our talent on the black fields as well. Well, not talent, but we lost, in a sense, a lot of the best, you know. So the Earl Monroes wouldn't really come through
right,
like that.
Right.
And
right.
it eventually became a stigma against HBCUs, which we're trying to fight off today. And luckily we have fought off a lot. I know, you know, the A&T football team has become well respected on all levels. But then, you know, there's still some stigmas out there against, you know, the talent, who you play, you know. But it's all lies. But you know.
Yeah, and then too, you know, being brutally honest, it's about money.
It is, of course.
And,
I mean, that's why we're in the Big South.
And because players used to get paid. Okay, I'm talking about they had these guys, they call them bag men, and what they do is, let's say if you had a nephew that was an outstanding running back or something. You was a distant cousin. They give you $30,000 for the family, for him to come, to your university.
NCAA would be all over that today.
Yeah, but I mean, you know, this under the table.
Yeah.
You know, and a lot of them, you know, there's a basketball player who. If I call his name, y'all know he's probably one of the greatest basketball players ever come out of the state of North Carolina. Somehow, you know, his house was on a dirt road, and then all of a sudden the road got paved. you know, I mean, you know, that type of stuff. Yeah. You know, so we know that that was one of the things that they were able to do to the black athlete is to, particularly in the sport of basketball and football, is influence them by giving them money, to come to those institutions.
You know, two things.
But still, getting back to what we were talking about earlier, we as black people have to work together because we're all we got. And I think that we kind of lost a lot of that, you know, with that move, and especially I saw the major transition from segregation to integration. You know, I grew up in the Jim Crow era where you didn't drink out of a certain water fountain. You didn't go to, if you went to movies, you sat in the balcony. You know, when you went downtown Greensboro, there were no bathroom facilities for blacks. You know, certain places, if you wanted to get something to eat at a certain place, you had to go to the back door. You know, so I went through all that, but once a lot of people went through the integration process, they forgot.
Yeah.
You know, the struggle, and they forgot who we were as a people, and they became more individualistic, and they thought that by being an individual you were free. But what they don't understand is everybody looks at us as a group.
Yeah.
You black. Yeah. You know, they don't look at you as the individual person. You know, John, you're a good guy, but you're black. You know, that type of thing. So I think that hopefully we can get back to that. And understand that the group is where it's at, and that's what's important. You know, and as black people, we have to work together. You know, we have to work together. We've got to be unified because that's the only way you can survive. You know, and last year when I went to see the Temptations in New York, you know, hey, you got Chinatown, you got, you know, a little Italy, you got all, but you don't have that type of thing with black people. You know, and I went down and I just looked, because I took one of those bus tours with the open air seating, and I was looking. When I went to all those towns, I didn't see the same thing that I saw in a black town. And so in a black town, you saw a liquor store, fried chicken, loans, check loan place, but you didn't see a real business, that we own, but in them other places you saw restaurants, shops, and different things that they own. And we've got to get to that. We've got to get to that. Man, I could go on and on, y'all. I'm sorry.
No,
this
is great. I'm loving all of them.
Hooker is used to this because I talk his head off a lot about this type of stuff, and what I've been able to see. And one of the things that I think helped me was when I went to Vietnam, I was able to see other people from different countries, how they had the pride in who they were. Even though they had virtually nothing, they respected who they were as a people. And they held on to their culture, and they died for their culture. And it was once I came back, I saw that we didn't have that type of love. My personal opinion, now, I'm not saying, some of us do, but the majority, we don't have that type of love for who we are as a people. And when I first came to A&T, people would go on the block. I'm fortunate that my grandfather kind of steered me a different way, but people would go on the block and they would buy Royal Crown jelly, grease, and would slick their hair down, put a handkerchief on it, put a stocking cap on to try to have some waves. Because, back then, that was good hair. I'm just telling you, brother, a handkerchief, put a handkerchief on your head, you brush your hair, put a lot of Royal Crown jelly on it, and then put a stocking cap on it and sleep in that so that you could have waves in your hair.
No silkies.
Because you wanted
just a stocking cap and
a handkerchief. And one of the best sellers on the block, black people would be buying would be Ultra bleaching cream. They put bleaching cream on their face at night, but that was the mentality.
Yes, sir.
That was what was pushed towards us. Then all of a sudden in 66, 67, Black Power came out. People started growing their afros. People started kicking all that to the side. Black became beautiful. Because when I was in high school and up to my freshman, sophomore year at A&T, you call somebody black, that was a fight. Right, that was a fight. I'm just telling you, that's how it was, And I saw that change, and I lived through history to see that change in black people, where they went from this total assimilation process to really respecting and liking who they were as a people. And I was fortunate enough that, like I told you about traveling on that bus, I had the opportunity to meet guys from New Jersey, New York, from all over the country. And one of the things that was interesting is you're on a bus and you would think that all these guys is kidding around and playing around, but no, you'd be on the bus discussing the difference between Malcolm X and Martin Luther King's philosophies. That's how it was during the 60s, That's what we were interested in. We were interested in the struggle and what it meant for us in our future. And we really would challenge each other, for a point of clarity on the issue that you were speaking about black people or about, how we were being treated in society. And we knew what Jim Crowism and segregation were firsthand, because every time we pulled into a service station or something like that, coaches would tell you, don't get off the bus.
Mm.
You know, you don't get off the bus, you know, because it might be an incident. And there were some incidents, you know. But that's what motivated John Carlos and Thomas Smith to do what they did. That's what motivated most of the guys that I knew that went to the '68 Olympics who wanted to boycott and protest because of the way we were being treated, you know. So, but my experience at A&T has been great. I wouldn't take it for nothing, you know. It's been the best experience of my life. We've accomplished some great things. I've had the opportunity to work with some great athletes and be involved with some great monumental change that happened at A&T. So I look back upon that as, you know, just a great blessing and a great experience. So.
Wow, man. Well, thank you so much for coming
No problem,
on, man.
So,
It's been a pleasure. It's been a real pleasure.
Yeah, I'm glad, man,
Getting
that
to
I got
talk
an
to you,
opportunity to talk to y'all, you know, and share some of my experiences with you as to, you know, what I went through and what some of the people in my era went through, because, you know, you hear a lot about the history of the civil rights movement, but you never hear history of the Black Power movement, and how that influenced, you know, the students, because the students at A&T really pushed for Black history being given. I remember when I attended there, everybody that was a freshman and a sophomore had to belong to ROTC. Wasn't no ifs, ands, and buts about it. You got a uniform as soon as you registered for freshman. As a freshman, you got a uniform, bro. You got a uniform. You know, odd numbers I think was Air Force, even numbers was Army, and you had drill every Thursday. That's why the sisters knew if you was a freshman or sophomore, because you'd be out there drilling.
I'm gonna have to come in as a transfer.
You're not lying. When I wasn't even in jail, TC, I don't know about the full one. But yeah, man, this has been PrimeTime the Sports Podcast, brought to you by Digging in the Crazy Hook and Max Show. Our show sources are down below, including our new IG that we will begin started up to soon at PrimeTime the Sports Podcast. Hit us up on Instagram, man. I want to give out a big thank you to Coach Roy Thompson, man.
Thank
It's
you,
been
man.
such a pleasure
Go.
getting to hear from you.
Thank you.
Hall of Famer.
Hall of
Thank you.
Famer. We got a Hall of Famer on the show, man.
Thank
It's
you,
been
man.
such an honor and so fun getting to
Thank
interview
you.
and picking your
Thank you.
brain.
Thank
You guys be easy, man.